Mesothelioma is a type of cancer which could arise from the lining of the lung. It also could arise from the lining of the heart. So we call the lining of the lung pleura. So we call pleural mesothelioma, or it could be from the lining of the heart, which will be called pericardial mesothelioma. But also we have a similar kind of lining, a tissue which covers all the abdominal organs, that is called peritoneum. So mesothelioma also could arise from the peritoneum, called peritoneal mesothelioma. Um, Generally, mesothelioma arises because of past exposure to asbestos, and um, it's unfortunate, it's a disease which actually has got a very long natural history. So for example, um, people who are diagnosed with, let's say, mesothelioma in their seventh decade of life, they could be exposed to the asbestos 25, 30, 40 years back. And asbestos was massively used in construction, in buildings, in the past, before we were aware of the the cancerous, the carcinogenic effect of asbestos. So often people who had been exposed to asbestos decades back, 2, 3 decades back, they will be diagnosed with mesothelioma in the later life. So just like any other cancers, mesothelioma could be are stage between stage 1 to stage 4. But actually with mesothelioma, from the treatment point of things, the stage is not extremely important, because irrespective of the stage, whether it's a stage 1 mesothelioma or stage 4 mesothelioma, it is generally considered to be an incurable disease. There are treatments available, so treatment can actually make a significant difference to life expectancy. Um, but it's unfortunately, irrespective of the stage, mesothelioma is considered to be an incurable disease. So mesothelioma, the thoracic or the mesothelioma from the lining of the lung, generally starts with the symptoms of accumulation of fluid um, between the lining of the lung. So what basically that results, as the fluid starts to accumulate, um, it can actually start to compress the lung, so the lung gets squeezed. So often patients actually present with excessive shortness of breath. So that is the most common presentation of mesothelioma. So the most important cause of developing mesothelioma is exposure to asbestos. As we know, many professionals are actually exposed to asbestos during their working life, um, as and particularly a lot of people are exposed to asbestos when at construction sites. Um, so being exposed to asbestos during your work life is generally the most common cause of mesothelioma. But having said that, I have seen patients, actually a patient's wife, who used to wash her husband's overalls when he returned from work, and that was the um, way this lady had been exposed to asbestos. She never had a outside home any job. So by washing her husband's overalls when he returned from work actually led her to being exposed to asbestos and developing mesothelioma in her later life. So mesothelioma, as I said, it's an incurable cancer, but um, So for a very long time, we have been using chemotherapy for the treatment of mesothelioma. More recently in the UK, we have done clinical trials where along with chemotherapy, surgery has been included as part of the treatment, but we are still waiting for the results of those trials to come back to say how how much benefit surgery can add to the chemotherapy. But more recently, again through clinical trials, we have started using immunotherapy drugs. Um, to name a couple of them, nivolumab and ipilimumab. So these are immunotherapy drugs which are being used as first-line treatment for mesothelioma, which certainly has made a difference to the life expectancy of patients who have been diagnosed with mesothelioma.